Celebrating 49 years on the air, award-winning Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, ranchers in Mississippi squeezed by what's happening in Iran. Plus, row crop farmers in the state happy about another E15 waiver coming their way. In Southern Gardening, Eddie Smith showcases early spring bloomers and count 'em, two stories about women in agriculture, one of them in the Magnolia State. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. A 125-year-old cattle farm in Rankin County, Mississippi seems to be getting squeezed financially from all sides, not necessarily unlike other farms around the country. We're told the farm owner blames the U.S. war with Iran.
Gil Martin runs Gap Farm in Rankin County. It's home to more than 5,000 cattle.
Woo! Come on.
Martin says the war in Iran is hitting his farm from two sides. Fuel costs are up, and so is fertilizer. The conflict has shut down the Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping route for oil and other products. That is driving up cost here at home. Martin has 700 acres planted in ryegrass, which helps feed his cattle. It needs nitrogen fertilizer 4 times a year. In just 2 weeks, Martin says fertilizer costs him $10,000 more.
It's $200 a ton more in 2 weeks that the price has gone up, basically, or since the war has started.
You might think higher beef prices would help make up the difference. Martin says that is not the case.
The farmer is not making all of the profit. It's the value added in the end, in the retail side.
And fuel is adding even more pressure. Martin says each tractor is burning about $100 more in diesel every day. Even getting fertilizer here is more expensive. Martin says his family has made it through droughts, recessions, and trade wars over the last 125 years. This is different, but he says Gap Farm is not going anywhere.
It's just a gamble that we take every day.
For now, Martin says he plans to cut back on fertilizer. That could hurt his yields, but he says he does not have much choice unless costs come down.
About 1/3 of the world's fertilizer passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Most of the fertilizer used on U.S. farms is North American made, but with natural gas costs going up, that affects fertilizer prices as well.
President Trump invited farmers to the South Lawn of the White House recently, where he showcased moves likely to benefit farmers in the months ahead. That includes, according to Trump, the end of the estate tax, right to repair, and a more aggressive depreciation schedule for farm equipment. It also included an increase in the volume of biofuels to the highest level in program history. Peter Tubbs has more.
The White House worked to reduce high prices at the gas pump and seek some relief from the political backlash over high energy prices brought on by the war with Iran. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin issued a temporary emergency fuel waiver on Wednesday to allow the nationwide sale of E15. Nearly 1/3 of the U.S. corn harvest goes for the production of the renewable fuel. This is the 5th consecutive year that a waiver has been issued allowing E15 to be sold nationwide at any of the 3,000 gas stations in the country that are properly equipped to dispense the blend. Roughly 2% of the gas stations in the U.S. can sell the blend marketed as unleaded 88. The waiver starts on May 1st for an initial run of 20 days, but can be extended if high fuel prices persist due to the Iran war. Ethanol industry and agricultural lobby groups applauded the move. Nationwide year-round sale of E15 has long been a goal of the ethanol industry. 8 Midwestern states currently sell E15 year-round. Fuel industry analysts believe that the additional sale of E15 could shave a few cents off the price at America's pumps. The average price of gasoline in the U.S. has risen 33% in the last month to over $3.98 per gallon, up more than $1 from before the initial offensive on Iran. In response to attacks by the U.S. and Israel, the Iranians have destroyed petroleum infrastructure in the region, as well as struck shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, effectively closing the waterway to oil tanker traffic. The strait is the access point for 20% of the world's petroleum and liquefied natural gas exports.
Later in the show, a feature on women in agriculture from South Dakota. But a few years ago, we featured rancher Ted Parker in Seminary, Mississippi. Here's a cut-down version of that story featuring his wife, Janet Parker. She's now the president of the Mississippi Cattlemen's Association. Take a look.
Very thankful for the blessings the good Lord has given me, because I never expected to have all of this. I never dreamed of having all of this.
I guess God always knew I wanted to live on a farm, but you better be careful what you pray for, it might come true. A lot of people go through life and they don't find what God has planned for them to do, but I do believe with all my heart that God wanted Ted to do this and for me to do it with him, and we've accomplished a great thing.
In 1990, we bought this place in Seminary. It was a dream come true for me, and I thought, boy, I've got it now. You know, I never thought I would have anything other than this. I just hoped and prayed I could pay for this.
So he had 2 jobs and cattle, and I had a job. So there were a lot of sacrifices. Ted called me one day and I was working at a vet hospital as an office manager. And Ted said, I've got to hire a secretary. And I said, well, I'm coming home and I'm your secretary. So we've been working together for 20 years. Everybody's a team. It's not just one person running the show. It's just been about what we needed to do. And I guess that's kind of how I see this, as teamwork. And now our 2 sons are involved in the business. And a lot of young people don't want to work that hard. But I think they see the benefits and see that it's so worthwhile what we're doing. We've never dreamed that we'd ever want any kind of accolades for anything that we do. You know, we've never even thought in that realm that somebody would take notice of us, because there's other people doing great things too. So we're very humbled and very blessed and feel great. And Ted's a great manager. He's been a great husband, father. It's been good.
It's still a bit early in the year, but that doesn't mean you can't have springtime blooms in your landscape. Here's Eddie Smith with a couple of varieties that might just make your neighbors green with envy.
Hello, I'm Eddie Smith with Southern Gardening, and today we're right here at my home taking a look at a couple of my favorite early spring bloomers. One of the first plants I want to share with you is Temple Bells. This evergreen shrub produces large, waterfall-like clusters of white bell-shaped flowers in late winter to early spring. These blooms hang gracefully beneath the foliage and last for weeks. The leaves are ovate in shape and emerge in beautiful red to bronze tones before maturing into rich dark green. That color transition gives you interest well beyond the bloom season. Temple Bells is a small to medium-sized evergreen shrub with a slow growth rate, making it easy to manage in the landscape. It's a member of the blueberry family and is one of the more shade-tolerant evergreen shrubs you'll ever find. While it's happy in morning sun, it performs beautifully in filtered shade and even does just fine in shade. Another early spring bloomer that I absolutely love is Jane Magnolia. This plant is a hybrid Japanese magnolia bred as part of the Little Girl series. Jane Magnolia typically blooms a little later than saucer magnolias, which helps protect those gorgeous flowers from late frosts. The blooms are large and showy, with rich purple-pink outer petals and a soft white interior. As the flowers open, They create a stunning contrast against the bare branches, putting on a real springtime show. These are just a couple of plants that remind me of why early spring is such an exciting time in Southern Gardens. I'm Eddie Smith. I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up on our Farm Week feature, Women in Agriculture, more and more a force in farming and ranching. You'll meet Franny Fritz, an ag veteran who just completed her 47th calving season. She's just one of the more than 1.25 million American women in agriculture and recently won the Woman Rancher of the Year. Her story is one that will appeal to men and women alike, and it's coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith, and their right to make their own plans and arrive at their own decisions, and their ability and power to enlarge their lives and plan for the happiness of those they love. I believe that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership, that these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations, and their faith. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance toward the views of others. I believe that education is a lifelong process and the greatest university is the home, that my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the market report. More market moves in the prospective plantings report.
That's right, Mike. The USDA just dropped the annual report on crop acreage, and we'll get into it. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then more USDA reports on our poultry sector and prospective plantings. And finally, in our row report, prices still making moves. What's driving the market right now? So, markets closed yet again, trending up with once again row crop split. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, cotton up nearly 2.25 cents, more than a 3% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, lumber, down 13 bucks. That's more than a 2% decrease from the previous week. So, some USDA reports to help us understand the current state of American ag. We start with the poultry slaughter report. Then we dig into this year's prospective plantings report, which is the estimation of row crop acreage this year. Here's what they had to say. In the poultry slaughter report, certified wholesome poultry during February at ready-to-cook weight totaled 4.25 billion pounds, which is up 5% compared to last year. January revised certified total at nearly 5 billion pounds, down 3% from last year. Preliminary total live weight of all federally inspected poultry in February over 5.5 billion pounds, up 5% from last year. Young chickens inspected totaled about 5 billion pounds, up 5% from last year as well. Mature chickens at about 53 billion pounds, up 8% compared to last year. Young chickens slaughtered during February averaged over 6.5 pounds per bird, which is up 2% compared to last year. Average weight of mature chickens closing in on 7 pounds, 1% higher than last year as well. In this year's prospective plantings report, corn planted area for all purposes in 2026 estimated at about 95 million acres, down 3% from last year. Soybean planted area for this year estimated at nearly 88 million acres, up 4% from last year. All wheat planted area for this year estimated at nearly 44 million acres, down 3% from last year. If this holds true, it'll be the lowest acreage since 1919. Winter wheat estimated nearly 32.5 million acres, down 2% from last year. Spring wheat estimated nearly 9.5 million acres, down 6% from last year. All cotton planted area for 2026 is estimated at slightly over 9.5 million acres, up 4% compared to last year. Upland area up by 4%, while American Pima down by 8% compared to last year. International issues seem the biggest factor in crop prices right now. However, the prospective plantings report playing a role too. We'll know more about that soon. For now, though, Don Rose says grain's growing in price due to weather in wheat country.
One thing, we switched from South America, some of the Europe, watching the weather there, to now we switched to North America. So we're clearly, watching that very close. We did get some moisture in the soft red winter wheat area, but the Western Plains, we're still in a dry drought status. I think as we move into April, we're going to need some moisture, or we're going to continue to add some risk premium to the market, but we'll see. There's a lot of people last year thought we were going to have that 89-year drought, but if you look at so far, it looks like, the extended maps that we've got some moisture coming to the Western Plains, so let's wait and see. April's very key. I would say that we've got weather premium in the market already on it, but so far, the way the weather maps look for the summer, it doesn't look like it. It looks like it's going to be a more normal year, but then you know how weather is unpredictable. There's no shortage of grain in the U.S. or in the world market. So it's more about, do we take some premium out for war, for inflation, for some of these other things. It looks like the stocks are going to be about 60 million more than a year ago on the wheat. So this is a good place. We usually start to get into a seasonal downdraft if we get some moisture as we get close to May, because remember, harvest is going to get going as we get into June. It looks like we're going to be down about 4.5 million acres. That's probably right, but we usually add back usually 2 million acres in the June report on corn, so we'll see. Meantime, soybean acres down up about 4.5 million, but I think the big one is the stocks and all positions report. On corn, remember we couldn't get D's corn last year over 480. That was our top. Now we got closer to 5. And our stocks, as of March 1, about 950 million bushels bigger than last year. So we got a lot of stocks of corn sitting around and a lot of stocks of soybeans. I think when you look at it, is we've added energy premium, we've added war premium, inflation premium, now we've added fertilizer premium, so we've got a lot of push in the upside on the market. It's like a card game, where it's, as cards come out, 52 of them as we go through the year, we're going to be a little bit smarter. They're coming out pretty fast right now, but if you look at it from a producer standpoint, you can put some big floor contracts in through some different products. Over $5 on corn now for the winter of 2027. So you can do things that are profitable right now for most people is what I'm saying. So I think we're in risk management territory is what I'd tell producers.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. We've got many different factors keeping prices high. What with war and drought, farmers have a lot on their plate. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. In the last ag census, we learned that more than a third of those in agriculture are female. That share has dipped a little, but the new and beginning farmer number is rising, and women are a big reason for the increase. Colleen Bradford-Krantz has more from South Dakota.
As an animal science undergrad at South Dakota State University in the late 1970s, Franny Fritz was so used to seeing nearly all young men in her classes that she would hesitate if she noticed too many women.
My animal science classes, if I walked into a room that had more than 5 women, I'm not kidding, more than 5 women, I'd back out thinking that I'm in the wrong room. Gracious, I'm in the wrong room.
She wasn't fazed by being outnumbered, however, and earned her degree in 1978. She returned to the family dairy farm her mother had been managing in the 5 years since Franny's father had died.
I milked cows for 10 years, Mom and I did. And in '88, it was to the point of get rid of the cows, get rid of the milk cows, or keep the milk cows and get rid of the beef cows, and I chose beef cows.
At 69, she's just completed her 47th calving season, which still involves more than 100 cows. Today, most college agriculture classes look much different than what Fritz experienced nearly 50 years ago. A 2012 study showed women enrolled in all agriculture majors slightly outnumbered men in undergraduate programs at 70 of the nation's land-grant universities. According to USDA, about 1.2 million women now represent about 36% of all producers. In Arizona and Alaska, the percentage of producers who are female sits at 48%, nearly matching their male counterparts. Nationwide data from the most recent Census of Agriculture shows, however, that only 11% of female producers ran a farm alone in 2022, compared to 37% of male producers. Fritz, who received the Dakota Fest Woman Farmer Rancher of the Year award in August at a ceremony in Mitchell, South Dakota, felt many were initially skeptical of her running a ranch on her own, while others were encouraging.
We can learn something new every single day.
She says most skeptics came around after losing the local bet that she wouldn't last a year. But the negative encounters did take their toll, especially in those early years. One moment that stands out happened at a tractor parts counter.
This partsman was not kind to me. He just wasn't. And he could be a pain in the rear end. Well, I went in one day. I was not having a good day. I just flat out wasn't having a good day. I had a list of parts I needed. I didn't know what the given name was for any of the parts, but I could tell him where they belonged. And he started in. And I looked at him and I said, look, you don't want to wait on me. That's fine. I'll stand here until somebody that does want to wait on me waits on me. And it was just like a switch went off on that man, and he's the best partsman today. Isn't that something? Why did I have to do that?
It may have taken years, but she feels she has the community's respect now.
I now can go into a parts place and the partsmen are all there and it's, hi, Franny, you know? Or I can go into Magnus where I sell cattle and they know me there. I'm blessed. I am blessed.
Cheryl Tevis, an agriculture journalist and magazine editor who spent 36 years at Successful Farming magazine, helped Iowa State University and several industry groups when they made plans to bring women involved in agriculture together for monthly meetings starting in 2004.
Women possibly did not feel as welcome or comfortable in going to meetings with other farmers and others, and felt maybe in some cases somewhat inhibited to ask questions, even though the questions they had were probably the same ones that were on the minds of everyone else there.
By 2005, the monthly gatherings evolved to become the nonprofit Iowa Women in Agriculture, which is still going strong 20 years later.
We also heard that women enjoyed learning with other women. It was about sharing experiences and also, being able to have a good laugh.
West Central Iowan Tammy Deal had a father who made a point of asking if she or her sister wanted to take over the family's farm.
Which, if you think back to the late 70s and early 80s, that was kind of unique at that point in time. But Dad was pretty open-minded, and he wanted to give us the opportunity if we wanted to do that.
Neither sister was interested in taking on the job after college. Deal eventually moved to Kansas City and worked in the tech industry. However, when her father became ill in 2011, she decided to move back to Iowa to learn how to run the farm.
Much to my surprise, I think, I ended up finding agriculture just really, really interesting. When Dad had originally asked me, I didn't think it was something I wanted to do at all. And then I knew Dad was needing more help, and so I thought, okay, I'll give this a try. And I'm so glad I did.
She now manages the farm alone, having lost her father in 2016. She crop share leases to 3 younger farm families who grow corn, soybeans, and small grains on the land. Deal now organizes what she calls ladies' lunches, where she brings in guest speakers for other women landowners in Guthrie County. She is also helping introduce a nephew to farm management because he has interests but little background.
And I think a lot of us don't know how very complicated a farmer's job is, but they have to wear so many different hats to be good at their job.
Franny Fritz agrees it's important that both men and women be encouraged to at least consider agriculture.
Find something that you have an inner peace with. I don't care what it is. But if you have an inner peace and you're just peaceful, yeah, we all have bad days. Yeah, the world can feel like you've been dumped on really bad. But if you have that inner peace, you'll get through it.
Good story. And by the way, about half of all the farms in Mississippi had female producers, women clearly a force in Mississippi agriculture. Well, next week, the 2026 Dixie National Sale of Junior Champions.
It's always a big story, and this year the numbers were bigger than ever. Well, more than $500,000 raised in the sale.
You'll also meet Julian Chavez, a hardworking young man absolutely bound for greatness. Trust us, you'll enjoy everything this young man has to say. The 2026 Dixie National, next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.